The Drifter's Waltz. The sun beat down on the dusty town of Salvation, baking the adobe buildings and the parched earth until the air shimmered with heat. It was the kind of day that made a man's throat drier than a desert wind and his temper shorter than a rattler's strike. But inside the Golden Nugget saloon, the whiskey flowed like a mountain stream, and the laughter was as loud as a six-gun blast. At a corner table, a lone figure nursed a beer, his Stetson pulled low over his eyes, casting his face in shadow. He was a tall, lean man, with a weathered look of someone who had spent a lifetime under the open sky. His name was Jake Drifter Collins, and he had a reputation that preceded him like a dust storm. Some said he was faster than a striking cobra with a Colt .45, others that he was a ghost who could vanish into thin air. But one thing was certain, Jake Collins was a man who couldn't outrun his past, no matter how hard he tried. Jake had drifted into Salvation a few days earlier, looking for nothing more than a hot meal and a cool drink. But trouble had a way of finding him, like a hungry wolf on the scent of blood. It came in the form of a beautiful woman with fiery red hair and eyes that could melt the heart of a cactus. Her name was Lily, and she was the wife of the town's most powerful man, a ruthless cattle baron named Jebediah Stone. Jebediah was a man who ruled Salvation with an iron fist, and he had a reputation for being as cruel as a desert scorpion. He had taken Lily as his bride a few years back, more as a possession than a wife, and she was trapped in a loveless marriage, like a bird in a gilded cage. Jake and Lily's paths crossed one evening at the Golden Nugget, and their connection was instant, like a lightning strike in a dry prairie. They were two souls bound by a shared loneliness, drawn to each other like moths to a flame. Their forbidden love blossomed in stolen glances and whispered conversations, a fragile flower in the harsh landscape of their lives. But their secret could not remain hidden forever. Jebediah, with his sharp eyes and even sharper instincts, sensed his wife's growing affection for the drifter. Jealousy burned in his heart, hot and consuming, like a wildfire in a dry forest. He vowed to crush this threat to his pride, no matter the cost. One night, as Jake and Lily met under the cloak of darkness, Jebediah's men ambushed them. Jake, with his lightning reflexes, managed to draw his gun and fire, but he was outnumbered. He was knocked unconscious, and Lily was dragged back to Jebediah's mansion, a prisoner in her own home. When Jake awoke, he found himself in a dark and dank cell, nursing a throbbing headache and a heart full of fury. He knew he had to rescue Lily from the clutches of her tyrannical husband, but escape seemed impossible. The cell was guarded day and night, and the walls were thick and unforgiving. But Jake was not a man to be easily deterred. He had faced death many times before, and he knew that fear was a luxury he could not afford. He began to plan his escape, carefully studying the guards' routines, searching for a weakness, a chink in their armor. Meanwhile, Lily was trapped in her opulent prison, her spirit slowly breaking under Jebediah's cruel gaze. He taunted her with threats against Jake, using her love for the drifter as a weapon against her. But Lily was stronger than she appeared. Beneath her fragile beauty was a core of steel, forged in the fires of adversity. She refused to break, clinging to the hope that Jake would come for her. Back in his cell, Jake's opportunity finally arrived. During a shift change, when the guards were distracted, he managed to overpower one of them, stealing his keys and his gun. He crept through the shadows, taking down the remaining guards one by one, silent and deadly as a phantom. He burst into Jebediah's mansion, a whirlwind of fury and determination. He found Lily locked in her room, guarded by two burly men. A fierce gunfight erupted, the air filled with the roar of gunfire and the smell of gunsmoke. Jake, with his unmatched skill, took down the guards, but not before taking a bullet to his shoulder. He kicked open the door to Lily's room, and their eyes met across the space, their love a beacon in the chaos. But their reunion was cut short by the sound of footsteps. Jebediah stood in the doorway, his face contorted with rage, a shotgun in his hands. "You think you can steal my wife, Drifter?" he snarled, his voice dripping with venom. "You'll pay for this with your life." He raised the shotgun, aiming at Jake's heart. But before he could pull the trigger, Lily threw herself in front of Jake, taking the full force of the blast. She crumpled to the floor, her lifeblood staining her white dress. Jake's heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. He cradled Lily in his arms, her blood soaking his shirt, her breath coming in ragged gasps. "Lily, no," he cried, his voice choked with grief. "Don't leave me." Lily reached up and weakly caressed his face, her eyes filled with a love that even death could not extinguish. "I love you, Jake," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Be free." With her last breath, she breathed her love into him, and then she was gone, her spirit flying away like a dove released from its cage. Jake's grief turned to rage, a primal scream tearing from his throat. He rose, his eyes blazing with fury, his gun a deadly extension of his will. He faced Jebediah, the man who had taken everything from him. The two men stood facing each other, their guns leveled, the air thick with tension. The only sound was the crackling of the fire in the hearth and the pounding of their hearts. Then, with a speed that defied human reflexes, Jake drew and fired. The bullet found its mark, piercing Jebediah's heart. The cattle baron staggered back, his eyes wide with surprise and disbelief, before collapsing to the floor, his reign of terror finally over. In the aftermath of the shootout, Jake stood amidst the carnage, the weight of his loss crushing him. He had avenged Lily's death, but it brought him no solace. The woman he loved was gone, and he was left with nothing but the echoes of their love and the emptiness in his heart. He buried Lily under a lone willow tree, her grave marked by a simple wooden cross. He knelt beside her, his tears falling like rain on the parched earth, whispering words of love and loss that the wind carried away. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the land, Jake mounted his horse and rode away from Salvation, leaving behind the ghosts of his past and the pain of his broken heart. He was a drifter once again, a lone figure silhouetted against the dying light, his future as uncertain as the desert wind. He carried Lily's memory in his heart, a flame that would never be extinguished. And as he rode into the vast unknown, he knew that he would never forget the woman who had taught him the meaning of love and loss, the woman who had given him a glimpse of heaven in the midst of hell. Jake Collins, the drifter, rode on, his silhouette fading into the twilight, a solitary figure in the vast expanse of the West, forever searching for peace, forever haunted by the ghost of his love. His story was a ballad of love and loss, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit in the face of adversity, a classic Western tale etched in the annals of the Wild West.